and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
Well, good evening, folks. It's Thursday. It's just a few minutes past the hour of 10 right here on KLRNradio.com, and that means it's time for the Jenn and Rick Show. All right, so, of course, as usual, I'm one half of the crew, Rick. She's the other half, Jen. Good evening, Miss Jen. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right, I guess. Still having some issues from the car wreck. Have to go back to the torture chamber. Chiropractor tomorrow. So, yeah, fun times. So many things going on in the news. I don't even know where to start, but I guess we might as well start with the craziest thing I've seen all day, the naked Trump statue. Some things that have been seen cannot be unseen. Oh, my God.
No, it certainly can. And I love that. What was it that New York said?
Well, first they were complaining that they had erected a naked Trump statue, and then New York City commented that it was taken down because you can't have an erection no matter how small or something. I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but it was like, oh my God. Oh, you can't have an erection without a permit no matter how small.
That was trolling level expert.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But yeah, I could have done without seeing the picture. I'm just saying, because that's one of those things.
I didn't care to see it either, but there it was, time and time again across my feed.
Yeah, it was on Facebook, it was on Twitter, it was everywhere. I was like, I can't get away from this, and I really don't. I mean, and then the worst thing is, unfortunately, I have one of those memories where a lot of times when I read something, it sticks with me for a very long time, if not forever. So I saw the grossest tweet about Donald Trump earlier, and I'm going to edit it a little bit for radio. But this account with a rather attractive woman avatar actually had posted something to Donald Trump's Twitter feed about him needing to plant a marijuana crop in her vagina and use something as fertilizer. And as soon as I saw the naked Trump statue, that kept running through my head the whole time, and it made the fact that I wanted to hurl even worse. Which is why I had to share.
That's so gross.
Which is why I had to share.
Yeah, thanks for that. I so appreciate it.
So do the rest of the listeners for about 30 seconds. I'm sure I'm going to get hate mail off of this one, but that's okay. I had to share my misery. It's just been one of those days. So, other than that, lots of interesting things in the news. There's been a rather large and comical shakeup in the Trump team, so to speak. Pieces have been rearranged, new people have been brought in, and it's interesting that the man who once quipped that he only hires the best people keeps having to fire and rearrange people.
Right. Because he doesn't hire the best people, because he doesn't stick to, I mean, it's one thing to have, a few people on your team that maybe weren't quite fully vetted or that you just trusted and it was a mistake to trust them. But how do you know that until you get burned? That's going to happen in pretty much any job, anywhere, any kind of management position. But this is just one after another, which means that the judgment there is not that great. It just can't possibly be to keep having all these issues.
So, in another interesting move, and I actually found this rather scary, a Breitbart staffer, or actually one of the heads of Breitbart, was actually named to the Trump campaign advisory board. Does that not seem a little bit like pay for play to you? The same
Which
thing.
Which is something that people have been saying all along, and they've just, denied, or at least been, very, they've avoided talking about it all. I know that I've thought that they're all getting paid for the longest time. I know people have come out that wrote for them that said that they were, anything anti-Trump was unwelcome or was met with high criticism, keep it about other things. Don't make any sort of attacks on Trump. So this just kind of, solidifies that idea that that they, have been actively supporting him.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing that kind of draws another weird parallel for me, and I know it's not quite the same thing, but there are all these stories coming out now about all this stuff with the Clinton Foundation, where basically people that donated to the Clinton Foundation are being rewarded with favors, and it's being called pay for play. And I know it's not nearly the same level, but to me it's just another example of how much these two campaigns are dark mirrors of one another. Because they're doing the same things. And the weirdest part about it is they're shining the light on one part of it and saying, this is what she's doing. And then they've been kind of playing the same game all along while they're campaigning. So my question is, if they're already doing this when they're in campaign mode, what do you think is going to happen when he's president? I mean, there's little to no hope that he actually becomes president at this point, considering... he's polling presently at about 77% of registered Republicans, and she's polling at about 90% of registered Democrats. Now, granted, about 45% of those registered Democrats are probably dead people, but hey. It's just the hypocrisy. I'm done with the hypocrisy on all sides, because there really is almost no daylight between the two parties anymore. It seems that once they made Trump the standard bearer sans standards, all they did was admit that they've adopted the Democratic policy of must win at all costs, not realizing that what the cost of that was becoming the very thing they used to stand against. And I just don't understand how the whole group got here and how they don't seem to notice.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit that right on the head. They are, using the same strategies and tactics and, resorting to the same lows as the Democrats, which is something that Republicans have always said that they, that's been part of the pride of being a part of the Republican Party is, principle for sure, but they threw that out the window when they nominated Trump, don't we know? We just find them in a very similar place. And there's also a whole lot of, but they do it. So, that's what we have to do too. Well, that used to be the distinction, is that we wouldn't allow that. And, now, the kind of Trump cult, says, no, do it even more than them. Do it better than them. Come up with ways that are even slimier, so that we can get what we think is justified to us, what we deserve, what we've earned, what Trump should get. It's just so crazy the way that they talk, and that they're totally cool with us doing the same thing or worse than what Democrats have done for decades that we've always fought against.
I don't know. I keep flashing back to folks like Hannity and Ingram and Limbaugh that all used to say the same things about, no one person is owed our vote. We need to make sure that we hold up people that are willing to stand up for and fight for the Constitution. Those are the people that deserve to be elected. And as soon as somebody with a little bit of power and influence comes along, all of a sudden there are a bunch of panting dogs chasing after him like he's a car.
Yeah, that desire to win, even though it may destroy this party and maybe conservatism in general, it certainly sets it back if it doesn't destroy it outright. Somehow that is more important. Winning is more important, to be in power and to be the one that was right, in that way, right by way of vote, not right by way of principle. And it's just something that's hard for me to stomach.
So this actually just came across my feed, and it kind of feeds into what we're talking about right now. This is from Business Insider. Howard Marks, the billionaire co-founder of Oaktree Capital Management, thinks Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump is delusional. In his latest memo, dubbed Political Reality, Marks dedicated a section to Trump's statement on American finances. It's fair to say that Hillary Clinton hasn't been anywhere near as guilty as Trump of defying economic reality on the campaign trail. And that's my subject here, he wrote. Marx is most disturbed by Trump's idea of reducing the national debt, possibly by printing money or by some form of default or renegotiation, which is the same things that I've been complaining about all along, because not only is he going to continue the Democratic policy of and even previous administrations before now policy of we don't necessarily have to worry about our debt because we can just fire up the printer whenever we need more money. He's even talking about using a common bankruptcy practice and forcing our debtors to take less money, which is not how our system is designed to work, and it's not something that he can actually do, whether he thinks he can or not. And that's the problem. When you have someone who's figured out how to work a system to where even when he fails, he can file bankruptcy, walk away from it with a nice tidy profit, he thinks the rest of the world works just that way. And our economy and our government can't and does not work that way. But you can't tell him that because he always makes sure that he's the smartest person in the room, even when he's not.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. You pretty much nailed it. I mean, he's not someone that can just easily be. I mean, obviously, he can't be controlled. He can't be. How long ago did the GOP tell him to start to clean up his act? And he said, from this day forward, I'm going to be presidential because I can be, because this is that all of that was just, just playing around in the primaries and blah, blah, blah. And he said he would. And then what happened? And then he says he will again. And then what happens? I mean, it's just one folly after another. He's made a mockery of this entire election and of the office, actually, that he's running for. And has proven 100% that he can't be told and he can't be advised. And so he absolutely thinks he's going to be able to do whatever he wants. And there's no amount of talking at him that is going to change that at this point. I just don't buy that he's going to slip into office and go, okay, let these other people kind of run it because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And that's kind of what they want us to believe, that he has some really bold ideas that he'll let them work out the details on, and then the people that really know government and how to institute these kinds of things will do so in a way that is, conducive to our rule of law and also beneficial to our nation and to our citizens. And I have zero confidence in that whatsoever.
So we were joking about this off air, but it kind of fits right now. This could probably kind of be the theme song for the remainder of the Trump election cycle.
See what had happened was, see what had happened was, see what had happened was.
Because it's like he says he's going to do one thing and then he does the exact opposite.
I love it. I love it. So funny.
All right, so let's change gears a little bit. I don't really feel like spending the entire night bashing Trump. Or actually, wait, we got one more bit about that before we do. So this is from... Actually, I don't have the article pulled up anymore. I just kind of grabbed a snippet of it. But there are some allegations going around, as always, of anti-Semitism in regards to one of Donald Trump's foreign policy advisors. Allegations of anti-Semitism have surfaced against one of Donald Trump's foreign policy advisors, raising further questions about the guidance the Republican presidential nominee is receiving. Joseph Schmitz, named as one of the advisors by the Trump campaign in March, is accused of bragging when he was Defense Department Inspector General a decade ago that he pushed out all Jewish employees. The revelations feed two themes that his opponent Hillary Clinton has used to erode Trump's credibility: that he is a foreign policy neophyte and his campaign at times has offended Jews and other minorities. Schmitz, who is a lawyer in private practice in Washington, says the allegations against him are lies. All three people who have cited remarks, including the one who testified under oath about him, have pending employment grievances with the federal government. Now, this goes on for quite a while longer. I'm not going to read the rest of it, but there was actually a quotation of a rather brash remark stating that he wasn't entirely certain that the Holocaust was real because the ovens were too small to have killed 6 million Jews. And this guy's one of Donald Trump's advisors.
So this feeds in perfectly to what we were talking about before, about him choosing people. And one of his main things that he says over and over again to reassure people that though he lacks experience in government, he will succeed and will be one of the best presidents ever. And that's because he hires the best people. Well, here again is one of those best people. And if any of this has even an ounce of truth to it, it is absolutely horrific.
See what had happened was.
Just saying.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things that Schmidt says to kind of absolve himself of all of this is that he's married to an ethnic Jew who's, for 38 years, his wife's maternal grandmother was Jewish. I don't know that really can really absolve him of being anti-Semitic when your wife is not a practicing Jew. She has a maternal grandmother who's long gone. I don't know about that. But one of the people that has filed this complaint was a top Pentagon official, John Crane, who he's one of the sources and witnesses, and he worked with him for almost 4 years. Kind of seems hard to believe that someone of that caliber would just be corroborating these other stories and then adding info of his own out of nowhere. So I don't see how this looks good at all, especially, with recent other advisors and people involved in the Trump's campaign having ties with Russia. And also, I mean, it's just a mess. It's just an absolute mess.
I mean, it really is. And the problem is, this isn't the first time that allegations like this have come around for the Trump campaign. There's a little bit that I played on my solo show, because when the bit about a very prominent racist who is a part of the Democratic Party endorsed him, David Duke. Of course, he came out and said, I have no idea really anything about David Duke. I'm not sure what this is referring to. But years ago, Donald Trump actually tried to start a party of his own called the Reform Party. There's actually an interview where he was confronted with the fact that David Duke was a member of his party, and at that point he outlined everything that was being used against him in the later interview that he then denied. So it's just another example of yet another Democratic talking point of lie, deny, lie some more, and eventually they're going to believe you or they'll blow over. And it's right. The Alinsky tactics that are being used by both sides of the aisle during this election cycle are mind-boggling. They're really, I mean, we say both sides of the aisle anymore, but at this point, there really is not even an aisle between them. They're just there all together, and they all have the same plans.
Right. And I want to be understood that I don't personally believe. There's no reason for me to believe that. There's been some unfortunate tweeting and some things like that, but I don't believe that Trump is actually like anti-Semitic. His daughter has converted to Judaism. I mean, there's just too many factors. He's had very prominent positions in his company held by Jewish people. So I don't think that that's the case, but I do think that it's just another misstep. It's another oversight that is problematic for this campaign. It's one after another with these people, and their histories are coming. The chickens are coming home to roost a bit.
Yeah, I mean, don't misunderstand. When I go after him about these things, it's not because I honestly think he's a racist. But what I think he is doing is not managing his campaign well, not getting out in front of things, and again, trying to lie, deny, instead of saying, look, I know who David Duke is. I was either unaware that he endorsed me or didn't know what was going on. So I've gotten out in front of it. Or
it was a dumb lie. It was a dumb white lie.
I mean, and that's pretty much the best way to sum it up. But that's the thing, though. I mean, anytime he gets caught flat-footed, he lies.
Yep.
Every time.
Absolutely, and that's a huge flaw, and a testament to his character. That I, for one, am not overlooking. But apparently, plenty of people are just fine with it.
Lots of people.
Because Hillary does, and Hillary's worse. Hillary lied more. Or Hillary lied about something else. So somehow that completely justifies Trump's lying, or at least gives him a hall pass, which I think is absolute horse crap. But that's just me.
Yeah, I've lost 2 followers while we've started the show. I guess they must have been listening. All right. But no, and truthfully, though, and look, I'm not saying at this point, I don't think there's any daylight between Hillary and Trump. I think they're both wrong decisions for the country. I think their parties are insane for supporting them. At this point, I would have been, and this is going to sound very un-Republican of me to sound like Trump for a second, but I think I would have been more comfortable with a Sanders presidency than I would have been a Clinton presidency, because the simple fact of the matter is the Congress would have stood up to Bernie with a lot of his crazy ideas. But there were a couple things that he wanted to do that I actually thought were good ideas. And it would have caused some growing pains, and it would have been a short-term issue for the country. But I think one of the biggest things we need to do is work on this bank issue that we have, because there's way too much money that's been way too centralized for way too long, and somebody needs to do something about that, but none of the parties are even looking at that. And when they do even try to take a look at it, it's usually somebody crazy like old Doc Brown, or also known as Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, also I want to just go ahead and point out that I gained 2 followers since the show started, so maybe they just quit you and came to me.
Could be. I mean, you are the brains of this thing, so it doesn't surprise me.
I was like, I'm just going to check. And I was like, oh. Actually, I don't actually know that it happened during the show, but sometime today.
Oh, I happened to look right before we started, and then I was refreshing the page to look at something else, and I was at like 4,301. Now I'm at 4,299. But that's okay. All right, so actually, I think we're going to go ahead and take the break a couple minutes early, because it gives us more time to talk about the remaining stuff that we have. So we're going to go ahead and take a break real quick. When we come back, we're going to talk about why nobody in the media is really talking about Louisiana, and a little bit more on the Ryan Lochte stuff. This is the Jenn and Rick Show. We'll be right back with you here in just a few minutes. Got to pay some bills. Catch you after the break.
Round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical, With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
'Cause I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live, already into the second half of the show. My, oh, my. All right, so without further ado, we're going to start jumping into the rest of the stories. We're going to touch on this one really quick. Was it a bribe? Wasn't it a bribe? Apparently, the Obama administration can't decide, but we've put together a little bit of audio of their conundrum.
It made a lot of allegations that this was ransom. It is not. It was not. We said that from the beginning. There was no linkage between the settlement and the freeing of these Americans. But we saw an opportunity to resolve these three separate pieces concurrently that were being resolved at the same time.
We do not pay ransom for hostages. We do not pay ransom. We didn't here, and we won't in the future. Precisely because if we did, then we would start encouraging Americans to be targeted, much in the same way that some countries that do pay ransom end up having a lot more of their citizens being taken by various groups.
Getting away from the word leverage, which in basic English, you're saying that you wouldn't give them the $400 million in cash until the prisoners were released, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Good to see you in this exercise in transparency and democracy.
Is that what it is?
All right, so just to clarify, the very first or the very last statement was actually the very beginning of the first exchange, where he was complaining about, I believe it was one of the Washington D.C. papers that had made allegations that was actually a ransom. And of course, he then said, well, it really wasn't. And then Obama said, we don't do ransoms. And then it was kind of apparent that basically they had held back the money until the prisoners were released, which makes it sound an awful lot like a ransom. And then he made a joke about transparency that he apparently found really, really funny before all of that broke. Just all of it kind of leaves a really bad taste in my mouth, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, as far as history goes, yeah, we know, and if people didn't before, they should now if they've bothered to really read about this at all, but this $400 million was pre-planned. You know, this was something that was ruled was owed to them, and you know, by international authorities, and so that's not the issue. The timing seems suspect, and if they did hold the money, if they were going to go ahead and give them the money, but then decided to hold it in exchange for these hostages, then it effectively becomes a ransom. It doesn't matter that the money was, I mean, I guess technically it does, but it's not, I'm not going to get hung up on that, the little details of what actually defines it as a ransom, just because we didn't scrounge money up or they didn't demand money for the prisoners. And so then we scrounged up money to give them. So that's why it isn't a ransom, because we didn't do that. I mean, they held the prisoners, we held the money, and we said, give us the prisoners or we won't give you the money. So it is a ransom type hostage situation. I don't know how you see it as anything other than that.
And I really don't either. I mean, I understand this was supposedly pre-planned and it's technically money that we were supposed to owe them. But as soon as you found a way to leverage it to get something else that you wanted and you refused to give them the money until they did what you wanted, that makes it a ransom, whether you want it to be a ransom or not.
Or at least some sort of, payoff, some sort of like negotiated. So it's just, I mean, they want to mince words here. And I think we're not stupid. And especially now that they've basically admitted it. And you know what? I actually kind of don't care, because if they were going to get the money anyways, but then we used it in order to be able to get these hostages released, does it kind of put a little bit of a stain on our, we don't pay ransom type deal? But it wasn't truly a ransom in the first place. So I'm glad we got the hostages back. I don't like that they used, they withheld money and essentially used it against them in order to do it. But I don't know how else this goes down. I just don't. Nothing else had worked so far. So it is what it is, and I think it was stupid for them to dance around the subject and try to make it something different than it was. But, that's what this administration does.
True enough. Speaking of things that this administration does, how about this pass they're getting on Louisiana? Thought that was a good segue.
That was a good segue. Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? The last time that any natural disaster happening under a Republican administration, and, we all know what happened with Bush and Katrina and everything like that, fell squarely on the shoulders, and they were judged and criticized so incredibly. The Bush administration was just torn to pieces over this, and it meant that they didn't care, and it meant that just all of this ridiculous stuff. And there was this really good article in the
I know. In
Huffington Post.
In Huffington Post, of all places.
Yeah. Someone with some personal experience in what is going on that is very frustrated about all of this. And I thought this one thing was really interesting, because they're talking about how, the media is not paying any attention. Not only is the government not paying it, or the feds aren't paying attention, but the media is not paying any attention. It's not as flashy and exciting as a tornado or a hurricane, where you have all this buildup and anticipation, or then utter destruction that then they can walk through the homes with people picking stuff out of rubble. There's nothing as exciting or adrenaline rushing as that. And then also they point out in the article, there's no looting. There's no looting. There's no robbing. There's no violence going on. There's no rioting. There's no protesting. So the media doesn't deem it worthy, I guess, to cover. It's just like, go deal with yourself. So there's this one quote that I thought that was really great. It was like, the consequence of being a strong community is that your tragedy is not mentioned in national news, your strength uncelebrated, and your needs unmet unless they can be met through your own resilience. And it seems to be so true. Baton Rouge and its surrounding areas have a really good network, and they're pulling together, and they're all helping each other. They've got about 20,000 that have been rescued. There's at least 10,000 in shelters and another 40,000 displaced, and they're doing it on their own. I know that Louisiana has sent in National Guard and some other things to help. The governor is helping for sure, but you just see a flashing picture every now and then when they discuss all the rain happening in the South, and that's about it. They're not really covering this utter historic flooding and tragedy the way that they would if they could make it political.
And, the interesting thing about that is our resident liberal host, Bryce Robbins, actually came on America Off the Rails the other night, and we went round and round and round about this topic because I kept trying to point out to him, what bothers me is not the fact that these people have been doing a pretty good job of taking care of everything on their own. That's what we expect to have happen. But what bothers me is if there had been a Republican president during this disaster, it would have been all over the media. It would have permeated the 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week news cycle. They would have made the Republican administration look entirely inept. And because it's a Democrat at the helm right now, they're not willing to do that. And it's not even so much that they lambasted Bush during Katrina. My problem with it is a similar incident happens with a Democratic president who happens to be on vacation and playing a round of golf while Louisiana floods and Milwaukee burns, and nobody calls him on it. Nobody. If one is going to be completely, basically have their political head put on a spit, then the other deserves just as much when even worse things are happening. I mean, we literally had a riot going on in Milwaukee where the people were actually on video that are of color telling the rest of the world that white people and black people can't coexist anymore. Black people are out for blood and they're tired of it. And yet the president's off playing golf.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I found it very interesting. Yesterday, he was on the 12th day of his family vacation and was on his 8th round of golf. So much for the family in that part of the vacation. Am I right?
Well, by family, he meant his clubs and his golf balls.
Anyways, besides that, though, he feels the need to jump to conclusions and not wait for the facts and speak out on various cases from Trayvon to Mike Brown and on down the line as Sandra Bland even. And then this one happens, and as it was said very quickly, in fact, I think they said he was supposed to give a statement the next day after that first night of rioting after the kid was shot. But then they realized very quickly that it was an African-American who was the police officer responsible for shooting him. And also that he had not been disarmed and that there was a body cam video and various other things to justify this shooting. And instead of giving that press conference, he just goes on about his way. Well, there was no agenda to push. There was nothing that they could do. This guy fled on foot during a traffic stop. He had a weapon. He pointed it at an officer. An African-American officer fired back. And, this is the kind of stuff that they just go and hide from because it doesn't fit the narrative and there's not something that they can push on people. And even CNN participated in this in a way that was disgusting to me. I don't know if you saw it, but Sylville Smith, the man who was shot, he and killed, his sister kind of stood up in front of a lot of people, and but they edited her thing. What she had said was, she said that they should burn down blank. But she was saying the part that they caught was they said her burning down. She was saying burning down stuff isn't helping anything. I'm using stuff instead of the word that she did say. So burning down stuff ain't going to help nothing is what she said. Y'all burning down stuff we need in our community. And then they said, we need our stuff. We need it. And so they did show that part, but they edited out the middle of it. And the middle of it said, take that stuff to the suburbs. Burn that stuff down.
Oh, that's been a recurring theme for those folks for a while. They actually started saying that after Ferguson. It was like, why do we keep looting and destroying our own towns? We need to take this stuff to the white people. And it's what we hear every single time.
So then she essentially blamed, the white society for the fact that her brother was shot. Anyways, and that's the kind of thing that they're laying low on, or then CNN, they're editing out parts of that. Also, Fox was one of the only ones to show, CNN did for a minute, but not too much of the guys when they were blowing up cars and stuff and they were chanting Black Power. They either edited out the sound whenever they were showing those videos or they made sure there was stuff being said over it. because it doesn't fit what they're trying to sell. So that's how all of this is. The Louisiana floods don't fit anything. The Milwaukee, everything that's going on there, what turned out to be the truth of the situation wasn't something that the president or this administration could jump on. And so Democrats are they're ignoring one, they're trying to justify the other, and the administration is looking the other way and pretending like vacation is going just dandy through it all.
I mean, it just astounds me because, again, like I said, if this was all happening under a Republican president, there would be a lot worse things going on. And again, what bothers me about this is, if I remember correctly, in 2008, when we made history and elected our first black president, all of this stuff was supposed to be on the way to finally getting better. The problem is, over the last 8 years, if anything, we are close to pre-1960 race relations at this point. We now have African American people calling for segregation of their own, which is basically spitting on everything that their ancestors fought for, saying that they need their own money, their own banks, their own stores, their own police force, and that they need separate communities from white people. So after all of this strife and this fighting and these people that fought for equality, they're basically saying they want things to go back to the way they were before, but now they want it on their own terms. It's getting so bad that in a lot of these rallies for Black Lives Matter, they're actually calling for the black media and the black participants to come to the front and the white media and white participants to go to the back. But nobody's really talking about that either. We're talking about an entire group of people that at this point are starting to do what a lot of folks would call reverse discrimination. I just call it, it's just completely what it is. It's discrimination. And they always seem to think that also black people can't officially be racist, just like Mexicans can't officially be racist. Well, I have news for you. Mexicans have one of the largest groups of racist of any minority community called La Raza. So you can't really tell me that they can't be racist. And with all of the things that are happening now within the black community, or the politically correct way of saying it, the African American community, which is crazy because the Africans don't call themselves Africans. Just saying.
Right.
They're just Africans.
Here's the deal about racist or racism. When people say that about, they can't be, and I've seen this going on a lot, especially with social justice warriors, there's this whole push to say that the only people that can be, the only people that can feel racism, and the only people that can feel racism are those that are in the minority and those that are not in power, and the only people that can be racist are those in power. It has to do with majorities in power and who holds the power, who holds the wealth, all of that, and that is what defines whether it can or cannot be racist. Therefore, white people, no matter how poor they are, cannot be racist. I mean, they cannot have racism inflicted upon them because they are still a part of this broader white community, which has the power and the control. And I'm sorry to bust their little bubbles, but the definition of racism says the belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or races. Nothing to do with how many people there are involved in that race or what kind of political or financial power that they hold. So too bad, people. That's just not the case. You can actually, anybody can be a racist. Absolutely anybody.
All right, before I forget, because I keep forgetting to do it, Ron says hello.
Oh, hey, Ron.
All right, so one last story to get to, and I think that'll probably take us to pretty much the end of the show because we're down to about 8 minutes or so. The whole Lochte situation, which has got its own little intricacies and a bunch of different weirdness going on, but apparently it's now coming to light that the whole robbery situation may or may not have been made up. I actually have, I believe it's a Washington Post audio clip in regards to that, but we'll go ahead and listen to that real quick and then we can talk about it.
Here's what we know so far about Ryan Lochte and the 3 swimmers who are being detained in Brazil at the moment. Lochte is back in the United States, while the other 3 are being held. Their passports have been confiscated, and the authorities in Brazil want to talk to them about their story. Ryan Lochte said that he had been robbed. He and the swimmers had been robbed at gunpoint. He told a terrifying story of having a loaded gun held to his forehead. Since that happened, we now know that there have been some holes poked in that story. The best case scenario for these guys, unfortunately, is for them to have their story to be proved true. Otherwise, this is just kind of an ugly incident. This is embarrassing for the U.S. It's embarrassing for Brazil. Brazil was very sensitive when the Olympics began because there's a great deal of crime in Rio de Janeiro, and it was all reported extensively in the United States. And athletes were warned right and left about leaving the village. They were told not to go out into Rio. And for this to come out, and if it were not true, if there were holes poked in the story, it would look very bad. And it sort of takes the spotlight away from some of the actual crime that has happened in Rio. Both the United States Olympic Committee and the International Olympic Committee will attempt to influence the Brazilian officials. They also have vast security forces, and speaking of the IOC, in Brazil, augmenting the Brazilian authorities.
So that was basically just an overview of the little bits and pieces that are now starting to come out about the Ryan Lochte incident. Now, you had a couple of other things that you thought were interesting, so I thought we could kind of go over those, because I've seen a couple of articles about that, but I haven't really been able to find any audio clips.
So this whole thing, okay, first of all, the first thing that needs to be understood is that Ryan Lochte's mother is the one who first leaked this to the press. So from the very jump, this was not the guys coming. A lot of people say, oh, of course they want attention. Or maybe, first of all, U.S. swimmers, they get all the glory and attention surrounding the Olympics at this time, especially right after swimming is over. They could ride out some time in Rio and be gods for quite a while here. So that doesn't really make much sense. I think, so she's the one that first said it to the press, and the boys are going, oh, crap, here we go. Because everybody's now asking them. Everybody wants to know. I have a couple things for me personally. I don't care if they did or did not lie. I really don't give a crap about the circumstances of all of this. Nobody was hurt. Property destruction supposedly was paid for. And I think that there is no rhyme or reason to yanking 2 athletes from a nation like the United States or anywhere else involved in an international competition such as the Olympics off of their flights, detain them, indefinitely basically, and question them over an incident about possibly, something that hurt Brazil's feelings. Number 2, screw Brazil. I don't trust their authorities. I don't trust their government. And shame on that judge for saying, hey, yeah, go yank those boys off the plane and let's detain them for something. And then try to act like it's a really big deal to lie to authorities, in which there's not even any real documentation that they ever even approached authorities. Authorities then came to them when stuff was said in the media, and then 2 of them talked to him supposedly and 2 of them didn't, but they can't even produce those statements. So now you're talking about charges. They did indict Lochte and 1 other swimmer for today for filing a false report, but they never filed a report. So then they said, well, no, it's for false statements to police, or it's for false reporting to police. Well, the police came and found them and talked to them about the incident, and there's no documentation that there was ever actually a statement made. So it kind of seems like a case of, even though there's some video which doesn't show us very clearly anything, it does confirm a few of the things that they said didn't happen that Lochte did say happened. It actually does confirm a few of them. One of which is the security guards. There actually wasn't just 1, there were 2, and they both drew their weapons. And that they had done something to this bathroom or whatever. They got back in the taxi. The security guard approached the taxi and told them not to leave, and got the boys out of the car, sat them in the alley. You can't really see anything. They have 3 minutes of this tape that is missing, that they released to the public. 3 minutes of it is missing. So while it may not have been actual robbery, and while they may have done something drunk and stupid and just been somewhat destructive inside this bathroom at this gas station. Certainly, if you're sitting there with two police officers with weapons that are telling you can't leave unless you pay X amount of money, that feels like robbery, at the very least is extortion. And the details of all of that are just so mucky, and it's so weird, and there are pieces that I just think that this is some drunk guys after winning all these medals at the Olympics. They did some stupid crap, like something I see every day on 6th Street, which I've worked on for a decade. Nothing worse, but nothing good. And then kind of got caught up in it all by throwing around some lazy language like, held up or robbery, whatever in regards to what happened with these security guards. And then when it got run away with in the media, then they kind of tried to cover their butts a little bit. Is it worthy of some sort of international incident in which Brazil is now asking for Lochtey's extradition for possibly saying something to police that wasn't true? No, that's absurd.
Well, I mean, again, I really kind of think of it basically kind of like you said, it's really much ado about nothing. Now, I have to admit, you did tell me something I didn't know. I didn't realize that the story was actually started by his mom, so that does put things in an entirely different light. So I mean,
she's constantly, some of these mothers, like Michael Phelps' mom, whatever, like if a press person sees them, they ask them questions, right? So I guess he had texted her about the situation. And see, again, that they are saying that part of the reason they want to pull them back is because they didn't really pay for the damage. The authorities are saying they paid $50 on site and around $50, what equals $50 on site. And Lochte and one of the other swimmers said they paid upwards of $400. So but who's to say those security guards, this could happen anywhere, not just in Brazil, but to go, okay, we'll just now that the police are looking into this, and now that this has become a big deal because it was U.S. swimmers and because it got to the media, we'll tell them that we got this much, and then we'll split the rest. Who's to say? And Brazil is not exactly known for its straight edge law enforcement, and like they said, they're very sensitive because of the high crime in Rio, which has been known to be perpetuated by police there. So it's just all kind of like I said, I just think it's kind of a situation where we won't ever really know all the details. And I think the boys kind of let it get out of control. And I think they took it too far, the swimmers, and probably took it too far and, exaggerated some of it. And I think they were probably just being drunk and being stupid. And then it just kind of all got out of their control once the media got hold of it. So who knows? But I really hope that Obama does not extradite Lochte back to Brazil for something as silly as this, in which no one was hurt. We're not talking about covering up a rape or something. We're talking about possibly damaging parts of a bathroom by tearing a sign off a wall and like kicking hitting a soap dispenser and, of which they gave money for. So I don't really think this needs to be some international crisis, and Brazil really has no grounds to demand something like that. And they confiscated their passports. The other three that were detained, they're said to have not been detained overnight, but they did have to have guards. So they were still not allowed to leave the country. And I guess now they're supposedly one of them is going to be on a flight tonight and possibly the other one's tomorrow, but that's not definitive. So I don't know. That could have turned into a scary situation pretty fast for them, I think. And I just think it's all kind of a crazy situation. And I think that Brazil is blowing it up because its feelings are hurt because they've been very defensive about the conditions of their city leading up to this Olympics and things that have happened throughout the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My biggest thing with the Olympics is I think we need to stop giving preferential treatment to third world countries.
Absolutely. It does nothing. It does nothing for them. And in fact, so much of the stands were completely empty in Rio, even at some of the most popular events, because people could not afford to go. They couldn't afford it. And, and they get to there are various things in which the host country gets to decide and then which the Olympic Committee gets to decide. And pricing is usually left up to the host country because of what they've spent on various, building things to host the events. So, it just has not been good, and it always leaves an economic hole. They pitch it as being something that will be good for them. It'll bring a lot of people there in tourism, and it'll flood their economy, and yada, 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 yada. And then it never ends up the way it is. And they got themselves into these situations economically in the first place, typically by having corrupt governments. And I don't understand why you think entrusting them with hundreds of millions of Olympic dollars is going to make any difference for the average Joe that lives in these places. Because it won't.
All right. Well, believe it or not, we are officially out of time and over the hour mark. So, no big deal. I'm up next anyway, so we can actually burn an extra couple minutes. So as we do usually, why don't you go ahead and tell folks where they can interact with you, should they choose to do so, as we make our way out the door.
Alrighty, I'm at J Homestead on Twitter and JR Homestead on Facebook, and you can also find me over at misfitpolitics@weebly.com.
All right, folks, and of course, I am Rick Robinson. I'm host of America Off the Rails, co-host of Jenn and Rick, and Finding Common Ground. That's right, I'm a workaholic, but no surprise there. Also, just put in a new article for American Action News, waiting to see if it's going to go out in tomorrow's edition or the next day. As soon as it's out, I will let you know. And of course, you can always interact with me on Twitter. Best place is AOTR_host, or you can interact on Facebook. America Off the Rails has a Facebook page. I also have one. You can find me there at Rowdy Ricky Robinson. On that note, folks, we have got to get out of here. I got to make room for me coming back on America Off the Rails here in about 3 to 4 minutes. We'll see you in a bit.
Time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do